Happy Tuesday, and welcome into the Tuesday Titans Tossup here on the AtoZSports Podcast Network. I'm Luke Worsham, Titans reporter for AtoZSports. What do we do on the Tuesday Titans Tossup? Well, I'll let you know. Every Tuesday during the Titans offseason, we toss up a topic related to the Tennessee Titans, and I will give you everything we need to know about that topic in less than 10 minutes. Today's topic is a fun one. We're going to be talking about why the Titans don't need to draft a quarterback in the 2022 NFL Draft. There's been some talk of that lately, some mock drafts coming out predicting the Titans to take a quarterback, but what we're going to spend our time on, our less than 10 minutes on today on the TTT, is why that'd be a bad idea, why the Titans don't need to draft a quarterback in the upcoming 2022 NFL Draft. We'll get into that in just one moment. First, though, I do want to remind you that the TTT is brought to you by Hecklin, Braden, and Smiley Family and Cosmetic Dentistry here in Nashville. Now, it's funny, literally just a few minutes ago, I'm scrolling through Twitter, and Austin Huff, who is one of the co-hosts of the Tighten Up podcast, also on the AtoZSports Podcast Network every Wednesday, he tweeted this. If you're watching on video, you can see it. He said, I wouldn't wish going to the dentist on my worst enemy. It's funny that I just saw that, because what Hecklin, Braden, and Smiley Family and Cosmetic Dentistry do is they understand that a lot of people think like our good friend Austin does. They understand that a lot of people don't like going to the dentist, and beyond that, they understand that for a lot of families, it can be very difficult deciding where to send your children, where to feel comfortable, with you and your spouse going. It can be a challenging decision to make, and that's why at Hecklin, Braden, and Smiley, they treat their patients like family. And look, I've been there. I can speak to that fact. It was a great experience. Didn't have to wait around in the waiting room. Everyone was very kind, very friendly, and attentive to detail. And look, I don't know who's enjoying going to the dentist, but it was a great experience. And they made it fun. They made it enjoyable. And they'll do the same for you, because at Hecklin, Braden, and Smiley, great smiles get noticed. They're located very conveniently in Nashville near the West End area. They're open 5 days a week, which you can't say about every dentist in town. And right now, if you make your appointment at drhecklin.com and you tell them about AtoZSports, you tell them about the Tuesday Titans Tossup, you can get 10% off of core whitening, because at Hecklin, Braden, and Smiley, they don't just do routine checkups, which that's what I had. They do cosmetic work too. So 10% off core whitening. Tell them about the TTT. Tell them AtoZSports sent you, and you can make that appointment at drhecklin.com. Talking today about why the Titans don't need to take a quarterback in the 2022 NFL Draft. I will give this one exception, because I think this just sort of stands always. If you fall in love with a quarterback, draft him. If you are head over heels for someone, and you believe that that someone can take charge of your franchise and take you to a Super Bowl, then sure, pull the trigger. Always, every single time. Because quarterbacks are so hard to find. And if you, are passionate and fired up about one, take that guy. But I would argue that that rarely happens. It's rare that a team is just head over heels for a quarterback. What happens a lot of times is they force it. They are in a position where they have a sort of desperate need for a quarterback. And so even though they aren't in love with a guy, they say, well, we like them. We think they're a good player. And we have a big need at the position. So let's pull the trigger. So we're going to assume, for the purposes of this conversation that we're about to have, that the Titans are not head over heels in love with one of these quarterbacks in the 2022 draft class. Because I just think they aren't. They probably are not in love with any of them. I think a team would be hard-pressed to fall in love with one of these quarterbacks. And we'll talk more about the quality of the class in just a minute. But to start out, the Titans don't need to take a quarterback that they aren't in love with. Because unlike the teams in the scenario I mentioned a moment ago that have a desperate need at quarterback, the Titans have a capable starter. And here's the thing about Ryan Tannehill. I tend to be a big Tannehill doubter when it comes to the postseason. You can go back and read what I wrote after the Bengals game, after his 3 interceptions, lost the game for the Titans. You can go read that at AtoZSports.com, and I still stand by everything I said in that column, which is that I really don't know that the Titans can win a Super Bowl with Ryan Tannehill. However, I think that Ryan Tannehill, in terms of giving them a shot to win the Super Bowl in 2023, calendar year 2023, NFL season 2022, Ryan Tannehill gives them the best chance to do that of their available options. And you got to keep this in mind, too, with Ryan Tannehill. He's 30-13 in the regular season, where he's been fine, made a Pro Bowl in 2021. He's not some kind of disaster. He's not some kind of liability. You just probably can eventually, if you hit on the right young quarterback, do better than Ryan Tannehill. And I think the Titans probably want to do better than Ryan Tannehill. But right now, that's not possible. For this season, that is not possible. In fact, the Titans have talked so much this offseason about needing to be great around Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill's their guy for right now. He has his limitations, right? 0-3 in playoff games when Derrick Henry doesn't explode with a big game like he did against New England and Baltimore in 2019. But Tannehill being a Titan means that the Titans don't have an overwhelming need at the position, and as a result, they shouldn't force the issue. There should not be a scenario where the Titans are picking in the first round and they're looking at, Matt Corral or any of these other guys who could be available at that point, and they start to say to themselves, well, we don't love these guys. We're not crazy about them, but we like them, and we got to find someone right now. That's not the mentality that the Titans should have, because it won't serve them well, ultimately. It would be better if they spent that high draft pick this year finding someone to help Ryan Tannehill. And I want to talk about this too, because what happens sometimes late in the first round is your high upside quarterbacks start to go. That's the scenario that the Baltimore Ravens fell into when they drafted Lamar Jackson, even though they already had Joe Flacco. And the Chiefs getting Patrick Mahomes in terms of, they already had an established quarterback. They just wanted to upgrade from him. That's a parallel too, but the Chiefs had to give up a lot, and they traded up. And Patrick Mahomes, even without hindsight, even looking back to what I remember the consensus was on him as a prospect back then, vastly better than any of the quarterbacks in this year's draft class. But even Lamar Jackson, right, who's a talented quarterback, won an NFL MVP, great pick, obviously, for the Ravens at pick number 32, there's no one in this class that is getting near to that level of developable upside. That player is not here. And so you stack the fact that there isn't some great high upside guy that the Titans can take and develop behind Ryan Tannehill. That guy's not out there. And any person that they draft for 2022 is not going to give them a better chance right now to win than Ryan Tannehill. You stack those two arguments, you stack those two principles together, and it becomes very clear that the Titans' best bet is to pick someone who's going to help Ryan Tannehill, a tight end, an offensive lineman, a wide receiver, not someone who's going to replace him. That does it for this week's edition of the Tuesday Titans Tossup. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Let me know if you're watching on YouTube. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Do you think the Titans should take a wide receiver? Tweet at me, at AtoZSports, at Luke_Worsham on Twitter. Thanks again for listening. Come back next Tuesday and we'll do it again.